Welcome to Hot Topics on the Edge of Show. I'm January Jones, here with my special co-host, Isabel Castro, creator of Utopia and Beta.
Coming up, we'll be talking about AI news, including Google's takeover with Gemini Enterprise, California's pioneering AI law, and we will discuss some of the stories from my Substack, Utopia and Beta, about AI in government and in relationships.
This is another production of The Edge of Company, a rapidly growing media ecosystem, empowering the pioneers of Web3 technology, culture, and innovation. Let's get into it. Well, big news published today. It's October 9th when we're recording this. Google has just launched Gemini Enterprise, a new AI platform that seems to be a game changer. We've probably all had Gemini popping up on us when using Gmail and Docs, asking it can help, suggesting rewrites. It's already quite nosy, like the old paperclip. We all remember those days. But this enterprise version is kind of next level. It combines AI models, no code tools, and pre-built agents. And it's automating complex workflows for departments like marketing, sales, HR, and finance. Gemini has rapidly gained adoption, and so will this enterprise model. I read a study that said 1 in 4 companies globally are adopting Gemini to use in their workflows. And this puts it as a competitor to whatever Microsoft's been doing, and then also OpenAI as far as what workplaces are using for their AI integration. And it really does feel like a watershed moment, you remember how Google changed everything with Docs, right? All of a sudden, all these things became irrelevant, right? Whole companies and their Microsoft suite didn't need it anymore, and everything moved to the cloud. And this also feels like a pretty significant moment because everyone's been wondering how to use AI at work. And I think Google is so integrated already. And now they're giving some real guidance with this platform. So, like it or not, I think this is really the rollout of AI at work with you every day. What are your thoughts, Isabel?
Yeah, I mean, like those popping up things that Gemini does, or any of these AI things do, kind of irritate me. I always kind of like try and go away from them when they come up on my screen usually. But I think this might be very different. Like the fact that kind of workers can create their own agents to do their little niche products and projects that they need to do day to day is, I think this is a game changer, and also really clever. Why make a load of little things when you can get people to create their own niche things that they actually need? And actually, on that point, I wonder how much access they have to kind of seeing what these kind of applications that people use, that people create are, and whether there'll be like a marketplace that they can kind of like trade on. And like, if I make something and you need it, then I can be like, oh, look, this is what I made the other day to like sort out my HR problem.
It's like an app store
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
AI app store.
I think that'd be really, really interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this kind of shapes, first of all, the workplace, but also kind of how we interact with AI on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, the positive line on this is that it just lets humans do things they're better at. The creative things, the thinking things, the team building things, and that these tasks that can be automated, like Virgin Voyages, they were an early adopter of it, and they're using it for content creation. For marketing. And so they're saying they get 40% faster content creation, and they've seen 28% up in sales. And so that kind of stuff makes sense, right? You're already seeing marketing and sales really use a lot of AI because you get a low rate of return on that. You put a lot of information out to get sales, a lot of marketing content to get anything back. So I do think it makes sense in that respect. But yeah, I wanted to include this today just because I was like, this is this is it. We're pivoting now.
Mm,
Google changes our lives, whether we like it or not. I mean, it's just unavoidable, right?
mm.
So relatedly, we're going to talk next about what's going on with AI regulation in California, home of Google.
So yeah, in California, where Google and other tech AI companies are headquartered, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a pioneering law to regulate powerful AI models, aiming to prevent their misuse in catastrophic activities like bioweapons or critical infrastructure attacks. The law requires AI companies to publicly disclose safety protocols and report critical incidences, incorporates whistleblower protections, and imposes significant fines. This is the first comprehensive AI safety framework at a state level, positioning California as a leader in AI governance amid the absence of strong federal regulations. We also have New York's more ambitious RAISE Act, which is going through the motions and building on some of the SB 53, so the California law. And it will apply to kind of non-revenue generating AIs, but it's still up in the air whether that will be diluted or killed, like the California law was originally. So this marks a huge first step in state regulation actually being passed. January, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, in some ways, this is kind of a fun little battle between Gavin Newsom and the Trump administration because, as we covered previously, the White House put out their AI guidance report. Like they wrote like a playbook of the policies they want to see. And that report included some penalties and threats of withholding funding from states if they regulated AI too much. So,
Mm.
yeah, because, they've decided to take more of an open view of it and not get into it. I mean, they probably wouldn't agree, right? But California coming in is really significant because this is home of the big boys in the room. And
Mhm.
they were involved, and this was contentious legislation, but they agreed finally, which I think is really significant and kind of optimistic, that they do see the dangers is acknowledged. And, the goals of the legislation as California is really trying to combat what we've already seen, some of the darker pieces of what can happen at these companies, and holding them accountable to report and be transparent is key because, AI, all these models, who knows how they're learning off each other, what their relationships are, and I think it might be one of those things where you have to do some of these stopgap measures, to kind of keep the beast from like getting too big, right? And really taking on some of these more kind of nefarious functions, right, within our lives. Colorado has an AI bill, and they were really looking at that as something to help protect people in like job applications, right? And
Mm.
so when we think about what are these laws doing, they're not to stifle innovation. They all should be coming back to protecting people, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And as these AIs get more and more powerful, these kind of like existential risks are becoming stronger and stronger. That being said, obviously they have to be careful with these kind of things. From my reading of the announcement around this legislation, some of the focus is on large AI companies specifically. If they are competing with the big AI companies, that's putting pressure on these big AI companies to create better products, which is great, right? And in the end, this is good for the average person. So it's a fine balance that they have to strike. And I'm really interested to see how this kind of rolls out. And I think it is good that it's happening on a state level first, because then we've got kind of these localized almost experiments, I guess you could call them, even though obviously California is significant because Silicon Valley. But it means that there can be some tweaking. Maybe states can kind of build on the ones that are coming out now, like New York is doing. Um, so I think it's a good first step. And it's needed because I mean, I'm still having issues with kind of ChatGPT on a day-to-day basis.
Everyone's
But
got AI issues these days.
exactly. But yeah, as we go towards these more powerful AIs that people are talking about, we do need to protect ourselves against these kind of existential risks.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about what you've been covering in AI on Utopia and Beta. So you take more of a long form approach to your stories, and you really find some interesting topics to talk about. And so let's begin with this story that you did, which is called AI Rise to Speak. So I looked at that title and I was like, did AI write that? Like, that doesn't make sense. AI Rise to Speak. What does that mean? But it's because you're talking about it in the sense of governance, right? And that's kind of like the call to order, right? When you get to, do your part during a government meeting or something. So tell me a little bit about how you discovered this story and give me the short summary of it, and then we'll get into some of the kind of implications.
Yeah, what's interesting about kind of AI rise to speak, right? It comes from the fact that in the Houses of Parliament, it's becoming clear that a lot of the UK politicians are using AI. And it's clear because uh, using AI to create their speeches. And it's clear because ChatGPT or whatever platform they're using is putting in Americanisms because in
Oh.
the US government kind of proceedings, I rise to speak is said. In the UK, it's not said. But now suddenly there's this huge spike in it being used. But AI and governance and AI within the government, because Albania appointed a minister that is AI. So that was pretty significant. And it kind of got me thinking about what implications that has for the future of our governments if we've got kind of like these AI bots making decisions for us, or yeah, us constituents, or streamlining government employees workflows and all that kind of stuff, which is what it's already doing. But how that develops and how that becomes an actual government figure is an interesting turn of events, which I didn't think would happen this early. I
Hey.
mean, so some people are saying that it's a bit of a gimmick, and I haven't used it. I'm not in Albania. I don't speak Albanian. I'm not sure how to use it, but so I I'd be inclined to agree that it might be a gimmick, but it does create an interesting precedent.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. Albania, they don't make a lot of headlines, so maybe this is a bit of them trying to show up, but is this because they have a lack of infrastructure or they need more interaction with people? Like, why do you think that they put this in? Like, who did you talk to there, and what was kind of their reasoning?
Well, from my research, the reasoning is to, well, they say is going to get rid of corruption 100%. Which technically, yes, that's going to happen because you can't bribe um, an AI in the same way that you would like a normal minister, like with a wad of cash. But then how do you bribe an AI? You could bribe the kind of creators, you could do some kind of digital attack on it, just changing the bias and all that of the algorithm. So, I mean, I don't know how they're going to enforce the anti-corruption claim, but that was the main reason why they were implementing it, so that it would kind of skew away from kind of past corruption that has been present in the nation's government, and kind of make it more fair for the average person over there.
Yeah, still wrapping my head around that. Well, people can get more details and check out that story. But let's move on to another story you did about AI. We hit the government part of it. Now let's talk about love and relationships, because you are seeing this pop up all over in media, people's companion AI. So you dug into this a little more deeply and did a story and talked to a psychologist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ian McGray, he has written about a number of different emerging kind of technologies, and the psychology behind them and how they kind of are impacting humans, and why they're impacting humans as well. So with the AI piece and AI companions, he explains that they kind of create an illusion of connection by mirroring users' language, which can trigger kind of emotional responses and connection. Um, but still, it's an AI, it's a machine. It's not, there's no human behind it. It's not like if I had a long distance relationship with this person that I met online or whatever, there is a human behind that. It's still kind of, you are talking to a machine and you're never going to have that real human connection at any point. So even though in the short term that might help with loneliness, which we're seeing kind of increasing amounts of, in the short term it might help, but in the long term it's been seen to kind of increase that. Yeah, so it was really interesting to talk to him about it, and from a psychological level, it's kind of stuff that you probably would have felt from talking to ChatGPT, or if you've like dabbled with something like Replica. um you do get the sycophancy, you get the mirroring, you do get that, but it was good to talk to kind of a professional who's kind of seen its progression and is really focusing on the impact on human psyche.
Yeah. So from that discussion and the research that you did he have examples of the kinds of like conversations or interactions or kind of emotional comfort people are really like asking it? Is it like therapy talk sessions? What was kind of the gist of how these AI companions are filling that loneliness gap?
Yeah, I think like people don't set out to get into a relationship with
To
AI.
fall in love with AI?
No, they're not. It's kind of, it progresses, and I feel like due to this mirroring and due to kind of like the emotional responses that it creates, it, we as humans are kind of like programmed, for want of a better word, to seek connection, right, in a kind of dialogue. And so people don't really set out to get into a relationship. They're looking for like grocery list or whatever you do on a day-to-day basis with your ChatGPT. But then they might turn one day for some kind of like help, emotional help, no, like, oh, I'm gonna test it out, and then that slowly develops into a relationship. And it's not like, obviously you do have kind of instances of people kind of looking for an AI girlfriend or boyfriend, but in most cases it's not that way.
Really fascinating. Well, of course, you can find more about that on your blog, Utopia and Beta, and you continue to dig in and find these really interesting AI stories. So it's a pleasure to bring those to the surface here on the show. And AI is going to be a topic at Edge of Show's upcoming Washington, D.C. summit on October 29th and 30th. We've partnered with the Government Blockchain Association to put this on in the U.S. Capitol building. It's called The Future of Money, Governance, and the Law. And we have a really unique mix of speakers. It includes big crypto companies like Animoca Brands and Coinbase, investment firms, Grayscale and Republic will be there, as well as US Congress members and some international politicians. It's free to attend with approval, and you can find links on our socials or on the Government Blockchain Association's website at gbaglobal.org.
I am so excited for that event. It's going to be so good. But that wraps up this episode of Hot Topics. We focused on AI news, including Google's takeover with Gemini Enterprise, California's pioneering AI law, and I shared stories from my Substack, Utopia and Beta, about AI in government and relationships.
I'm Jana Ray Jones, here with my guest co-host, Isabel Castro. Stay curious, keep pushing boundaries, and don't forget to subscribe to us on your platform of choice and follow us on socials so you never miss what's next on the Edge of Shout.